We have Jack Steward, who is the co-creator and co-host of the Emmy Award-winning television show, one of our favorites in the family, Rock the Park. So we're very excited to have you here, and we're both comparing our quarantine beards. So welcome to the show, Jack.
Thank you so much. It means just the world that you would have me. And yeah, you got a good beard going.
Yeah, it is a little gray, but that's, it makes me look distinguished. That's what I keep lying to myself. So
Hey, that works. That works.
Whatever works. Well, it's great to see you. And of course, it's a little bit disjointed because we were just talking off microphone. Usually when I see you and Colton on TV, you guys air Saturday mornings here. And during the winter, we work out in the back of our house and the TV's on. And usually I'm huffing and puffing alongside of you guys on a kayak or climbing or doing something. So it's kind of interesting to see you right now. So if I break out in a sweat, it's just like I said before, just some sort of Pavlovian reaction to seeing you guys. So, but
yeah, but maybe it's good. Maybe it'll be nice to actually have an experience that's relaxed, where you don't feel like you're running a mile or doing whatever while watching. So
yeah, no, but it's a great. Obviously, it's great. We're Parks people, so it's great to have on. It's a great workout companion, even if you're not
Totally.
a Parks person, because as active as you are, which I do want to get into that a little bit. So I'm going to presume that people who listen to our podcast generally are Parks people, or they're planning out a Parks trip. So I'm going to make the assumption that they also know about Rock the Park. But I don't know if they know you and your and Colton's background. So can you give us a little bit of an origin story about how the show came together? The tag is you guys were lifelong friends, but I'd love to hear about that. Where did you guys grow up? How did you meet? And then where did the genesis of this idea come from?
Yeah, totally. I mean, so Colton and I met in the second grade. It was pretty funny. When he moved to Minneapolis from the Chicago area, we ended up sitting right next to each other in class. And from then on out, it was just like, it was on. We would play basketball together. We would do sleepovers, hang out. But then one of the things that we loved to do is we would make movies, like home movies, just for fun. Both my parents have worked in TV forever, and so there were cameras lying around. And so Colton and I would make these movies, and we have one series called Cabin by the Lake, where we film these movies up at our cabin, up at my family's cabin, and we still do those to this day. So it's hilarious. We have 15 of these movies. But anyways, we would go out and we'd shoot these videos. And yeah, really just do everything together. We would go explore my woods, explore up at my cabin. Well, then my parents were always into travel, and they took my family to Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Park when I was 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember because we got into Jackson Hole where we were staying at night. And I remember waking up the next morning and seeing those mountains for the first time. And I was just overwhelmed. And now I understand that it was just this overwhelming experience of awe and wonder. But I had never experienced the feelings that I had when I saw those mountains. And that trip just was so special because our family bonded. We climbed a mountain. We went 7 miles up the mountain in Jackson Hole where they have the tram or whatever. So as a young kid, that was a big feat. Basically, I just fell in love with the mountains and with Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Park. And from then on out, I knew that I wanted to live in the mountains. I wanted to spend time in the mountains. And so you take those two things. Colton and I, love to make movies. I grew up making movies. And then I also became a huge outdoor guy. I ended up going to school at the University of Montana in Missoula. Mm-hmm. And I was a photojournalism major. And trying to make this quick, on a summer trip, Colton ended up coming with me to meet my friends and to just spend some time out in Montana. He fell in love with the place, transferred to the University of Montana from Northern Michigan.
Wow.
On that trip, literally on the road trip, he did that. And from then on out, it was on. We just I would do my assignments in the parks in Glacier and Yellowstone. He would come along and we would film our adventures while we were trying to get the shots for my documentaries and stuff. And that was sort of the beginnings of what became Rock the Park. And we just
Right.
continued to do that. And now we do it for a living.
By the way, I'm still hung up on the fact that a good, solid son of Minnesota, such as yourself, was nice to a Bears fan when he moved into town. I'm sure he was ostracized by everybody else, but it seems like you, as the Vikes guy, were the one nice guy to him. So that speaks very highly of you.
Sadly, I was so let down by the Vikings so many times that, I didn't even care.
Yeah, exactly. There's a sad story there. A long
Totally.
poor Vikes. That's right. Well, that's amazing that you have this lifelong experience. And look, it's funny you mentioned this, with the huge exception of we don't have a TV show, but similar with my high school, my childhood buddies, guys, camping trip we were just on to Isle Royal. We're with high school buddy, my brother, first off, who obviously I've known our entire lives. And then, a high school buddy that I met in the 5th grade, and we sat next to each other because that's the way the alphabet shook out. And, my lifelong best pal, and he was on that trip. And there's something pretty special about that, that I don't think people get. So that's really nice, with this exception that you guys get to make a TV show. So just now let's chase it up to getting the show made, because you mentioned, Jack, that you kind of grew up in television production in some regard, but what little I know about TV and film is that there's a big universe of great ideas, but that funnel from great ideas to actually getting something made really, really narrows down. So how did you go from some aha moment to actually getting on the air?
Yeah, I think so. What ended up happening was, so my mom actually founded our production company. It's called Tremendous Entertainment. And so she saw our videos and knew she was biased, but thought like, this is a good idea. And so we put together this pitch, and it's called the sizzle reel. It's basically a trailer that you use to sell an idea or a show. And we spent a lot of time on it. I produced it all myself, edited it myself, had help, from people like telling us this works, this doesn't work. And then we started pitching it. And I think there were some big things that worked together that ended up with us selling the show. One, we had an idea that hadn't really been done before. All the media that really was out there about national parks at the time was like the Ken Burns documentaries, just like the very slow documentaries that are great, but they weren't really connecting with the younger audience, and so what we had going for us is a show about the national parks that was really full of energy. Also, we weren't experts. We still really aren't, but we really weren't at the time then. So there was kind of this charm to us that we were just so earnest and so willing to give things a try, that those two things work together. But also we found ourselves in this educational block of television that really lent itself well to our show, because our show, we try to tell people, about these parks, but also how to be responsible in these parks, how to go out and enjoy yourself while being safe. And so all those things kind of came together. And then also right before we sold this, there was a government shutdown and the parks were closed and people were up in arms about it. And so it really showed how important these places are. And so all those things came together, and I think it just was, it was meant to be. And so that's kind of how it got on TV. Because you're right, like getting a show on the air is not easy at all. And so we're very blessed to have had the success we had doing that.
Well, kudos to getting on the show, and then the success that you've had, which I want to talk about a little bit later. But now getting into the show, so every week, and whether it's focused on a park or it's focused on an aspect of parks, the show has different themes, but it seems as though one of the recurring themes, or the through theme, is obviously adventure in our national parks. So how do you and your Colton and the production team come up with the activities that you choose? So, I noticed I caught on one episode that Jack, you're a surfer. Is that right? And
yeah.
So we're here on the different coast, on the East Coast. I grew up surfing as well, and it seemed Colton was, I guess, again, Midwest guy, was a little uncomfortable with it. So was that your idea, or do you guys try to get out of your comfort zones, or are you at the mercy of a producer who just, boys, you're going up on that mountain, you're going to do some rock climbing today, whether you like it or not? How do you come up with it?
It's a little mixture of everything. We definitely give our recommendations of what we would like to do, because you know part of this is Colton and I like grew up doing this and spent college like picking our own adventures, and so when it comes down to it, we have a big bucket list, and if we're having a good time doing something that we've always wanted to do, it's going to usually translate to a good episode as well. But also, we have a big team that looks for just great stories. There are so many amazing stories in our national parks. So whether, recently on this last season, we went down and spent time in Big Cypress National Preserve, kind of learning about the python problem that they have down there, the invasive pythons. So that came out of research that one of our producers did. And it was a great story because we also want to have some variety too, because if you ask me, I could spend the entire season in the mountains somewhere. And you ask Colton, he might be doing something else. And so to give some variety, we have a big, team effort from our staff, Colton, myself, to pick different things. But surfing was definitely my idea because I love it. I actually went out at 6 a.m. this morning and it was a blast. So I'm definitely big into that.
Good for you. Good for you. We're just warming up finally here, but I'll give you a little hint. Just and Danielle, feel free to cut this out if you want. But my surfing career ended when the kids came because when they were oceans too much. That surfboard ended up kind of a fun shape. It ended up being used. Basically, they're surfing in the Peconic Bay here, where they thought they were surfing as little kids. But now they're older. We're starting to transition back to the ocean. So I'm retirement sooner rather than later. So yeah.
Sweet. That's awesome. Right on.
So the one thing that has struck me in watching your shows, again, normally while I'm working out, is obviously you're showing the adventure side of the parks and there's an educational component. But it really struck me that you and Colton don't shy away from the danger of the park. You don't overstate it. You're never putting yourselves in an overly dangerous situation, but you don't shy away from the danger of it. And it strikes me, that your opening montage where I believe it's Colton on the sea kayak coming out of the cavern. And every time I see that montage, I think the overhanging rock's going to take his head off. And it's I cringe every time.
That was brutal.
Black Canyon and the Gunnison, not the danger, but I cringed the most at that because of all the poison ivy that you guys were navigating. And if that got on me, it would just be a game over. So I always found that you're not showing a sanitized version of the national parks. You're showing that, look, there's a lot of adventure and a lot of fun, but look, at some point you have to take care. But there is now. Do you find an element of that's where the fun comes in? We're finding that line where there's a little bit of a thrill, but you're not putting yourself in an unsafe situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one thing that we want people to know is that nature can be very dangerous. You're being very vulnerable, and it's a humbling situation anytime you go out into nature. It doesn't matter if you're surfing or on a river or climbing a mountain or in the desert, there's always going to be risk. And it's actually one of the things that makes the experience so life-changing and worthwhile, is because to me, I found that nature gives me a picture for life as a whole, because there's always going to be a risk to life. And oftentimes when you step out of your comfort zone into a potentially dangerous situation, well equipped with the tools that you need to get through it, you learn something, about yourself in the process. And so, we definitely don't shy away from the danger. We want to make sure that we're prepared for it. And sometimes things come up that just are totally unforeseen. And we've had a lot of those situations on the show. But I think that's the reality of life, but also our national parks and just nature as a whole. And we want people to understand that that's a part of it, that you do need to be prepared when you go into these places. And yes, I want to also state it is a lot of fun. Like that thrill that you get from, hanging off a cliff or going through a big rapid or going deep, going deeper than you have before diving or paddling into a big wave. I mean, that is just, it's an exhilarating feeling for sure.
So what were some of those unforeseen thrills or dangers that popped up in the filming of the show?
Yeah, so when we were in Carlsbad Caverns National Park, we were doing a wild caving segment where wild caving is where you're crawling through tight spaces and all that. And unbeknownst to us, there was a flash flood while we were in the cave. And while we were coming out of it, we saw that the water was rising through one of the tighter squeezes that we were going to have to go through.
Yeah.
And so it was a go. It was a go right now sort of a moment. Our guide was a park ranger, so we were in good hands. But she told us, like, if we don't go now, we might be stuck here overnight. And so we pushed through it. And I had water up to my nose, going in backwards and squeezing through stuff. It was very, very crazy. And we got through it. And that's just one. There've been a few of those.
Well, and credit to the production values too, because you mentioned that show, in particular, the camera work was such that I was in that tunnel with you, right? I was there with you. It wasn't, I was at a remove safe in my house. And Jack and Colton, they're in a tight spot. It was, I feel as though I'm right behind you, and cool. Jack better hurry up because I'm going to get stuck behind him. So hurry up. So that was very, very well done by that camera guy who truly was behind you or in front of you filming it. Yeah, that's excellent work. So one other question, it occurred to us, Danielle and I, is that, we do have similar jobs, different media, obviously, where we're visiting a lot of these parks. We don't just pick on, we don't pick on one park that's our backyard park and that's where we go to. And I'm ashamed, for me, maybe not you, I'm ashamed to say there's a couple of times where we've picked a national park to go to. And in the back, I didn't tell Danielle or the kids, but in the back of my mind, I thought, well, it's not on the top of my list and I'm sure it'll be okay, but I'm going to go check this box. And
totally.
Each of those times, I'll tell you, one was Everglades, where I thought, my myopia, it's swampy, it'll be buggy. And I got down there and we had so much fun, one. And two, I want to go back and get out in the backcountry on the kayaks and I guess the Cheekets, the backcountry camp. Have you had a similar experience where you and Colton sat down and said, well, here's a park we're going to, and in the back of your mind, you thought, well, I'll power through this one until we get to a park I really want to go to. And then you found you fell in love with it?
For sure. Yeah, there's been plenty of those. And honestly, like, I want people to know that for me, my park experience goes beyond like the scenery or the animals or the adventure that we have in the park. And so there have been plenty of ones where I'm like, sure, that sounds all right. But I'm not too excited to get there. But honestly, the experience that I have there is either surprising to me or honestly, like if you're with good people, part of my national park experience is the memories we create there. So even if you're having a bad time, usually it turns into like a great story or a great bonding moment with your friends, family, or in our situation, both our crew. They're our friends and our family, a lot of them. So yes, I've definitely had those, but it always turns out to be amazing or fun in some sort of a way. But yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be honest if I was saying otherwise. Yeah.
Well, same here, but that disappointment has never been fulfilled. I usually get to these spots and think, well, I'm the idiot. Obviously this is a national park for a reason. This is so much fun.
Totally.
I have to adjust my expectations, which is always a lesson that, I find I have to relearn sometimes, but the other end of that coin, and maybe you already mentioned this with Tetons when you were a kid, or maybe it's Glacier, but what are your favorite parks? I mean, you've seen so many, and I'm sure our listeners who are planning, hopefully post-COVID, planning a trip, they'd love to get your opinion on what are some of your favorites.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to say it's okay to have your preferences, I think I've felt pressure in the past to be like, no, they're all my favorite. It's like, no, I have favorites and I have my preferences on the types of places I like to go to, but they are all national parks and they're protected for a reason. So they're all special in their unique way. But My favorites will always be the ones that hold some real sentimental value to me. I mean, Yellowstone will always be a favorite because it's the first one that I went to really with my family that I fell in love with the parks as a whole there. I love Glacier National Park up in Montana. I went to school up there, and so that was the home park for a while. And again, just created amazing memories with my friends there. Right now, my absolute favorite park is Death Valley National Park. And there are many reasons for that. One, I've had some incredible solo experiences there, and one real life-changing moment that park, it has become my favorite place on earth. But as a park goes, what I love about it is it's so vast. There is so much you can do there. It's a lot of it is trailless wilderness. So if you're a true like wilderness lover, you can get out and wander there. There's mountains, there's canyons, there's wide open valleys. It's just it's an amazing place. So I love that. And then if I had to give one more, yeah, the Tetons are great. I love Alaska. Anything in Alaska is incredible. And then I also love getting out to the tropical parks, like when we go to like Biscayne or where else we went to, Virgin Islands, Hawaii, anywhere in Hawaii. There's just so many great ones.
Yeah. Well, it's similar for us. We're beach people. We don't not like the mountains. We've loved them, but inherently where I grew up and where we grew up, we're beach people. So we've had the same experience at Virgin Islands. But you broke my heart a little bit with Death Valley. One, that show was excellent, and I enjoyed your segment on the moving rocks, which also stumped me. But I watched that. That was the rare one I watched, not working out, but as trip prep. And because I was supposed to be there last month with one of these, Mike Colton, my longtime elementary school buddy, we were going to go out there for just a long weekend, but COVID, again, these are high quality problems, but COVID got in the way. So we had to postpone that.
So shoot. Yeah, that's too bad.
Again, things could be worse. So we live vicariously through you and your show, but you're saying that definitely was a little bit of a twinge there. So yeah, we can't wait to get out to Death Valley.
It's definitely worth it.
A quick question here. Now, getting back to, we talked about this before, some of the success you've had, you've won an Emmy Award, which has got to be pretty exciting. So, again, I know nothing about TV, yet I've had the Oscar and Emmy acceptance speech planned out in my head. So I have to ask someone who's actually done it. How was that experience of actually winning an Emmy, and how was the Emmy program, and is there a red carpet? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, it was great. So we won an Emmy our first season, and it was the 4th episode we ever shot. So very early on. And yeah, that first Emmy experience was incredible. I mean, you have two guys that, I worked in TV, but I never thought I'd be in front of the camera. And here we are, on a red carpet. We're dressed up in tuxedos, and we're at this award ceremony. It was amazing. We had our friends, our family, our crew, our staff there. And just being there was huge. We never actually, and I'm being honest here, we actually didn't think we were going to win. Yeah. And so then to be sitting there and hear them, and we have this all on camera. I actually have it up on YouTube. To hear them actually call out Rock the Park as the winner, we just erupted. We went nuts, and it was so special. Like I said, my mom, she's the president and CEO of our production company. She was the one that actually gave the speech, and it was just so awesome because here we are, me and then her other, basically son, Colton's like a son to her too. And then also my cousin, her nephew, shot the episode, and he was there. And so it was just like such an incredible moment, and just like a great affirmation that we're onto something here. And and now here we are 6 years later, and we just got nominated for 3 more Emmys. So
that's excellent. It's an embarrassment of riches. Good for you. That's great.
Well, we'll see. Again, we haven't won one since then, but just to be nominated, it really is it's an honor, and it shows again that people love these national parks, and that's awesome. So
I think so. I think you've tapped into something universal. And again, you guys had the right idea and the right chemistry. But it also leads to, it's a nice segue into, we actually have some listener questions from our podcast. When we went out to say we were speaking with you, we had a lot of inquiries, and people are excited. But it's a nice segue because one of the questions we have, not to rush you, Jack, but is what are your plans post Rock the Park? If you can share that with us, or do you have plans?
Yeah. So, we're always looking for something to do next in the TV world. But again, like we've said, that is a big if. So I'd love to do another show, one that explores wild places, but maybe adds a little touch of culture in there. So we're looking into something in that realm. But something that's come up recently that I'm actually really, really excited about on top of all this, I am going to be going back to school to become a licensed therapist of all things, believe it or not. And so that is coming out of left field, but I'm really excited about it. And it's something I'm passionate about, and using nature, nature has always been a source of therapy for me. And so I'm excited about the prospect of being able to incorporate that into like my own practice someday. And so that's it, kind of out of left field, but something that I'm really excited about.
That's amazing. I would argue it's not out of left field because one certainly has something to do with the other. And I mean, it's why obviously adventure and all this, but one thing that attracts us all, at least for me, I'll only speak for myself, is sometimes I just need a walk in the woods to reset. And that is,
absolutely.
And maybe I didn't need that as much in my 20s or the teens. And I don't know what it is, but in my 40s, Jack, I need that walk in the woods probably more than I think sometimes, just to kind of reset.
So do I.
I get
absolutely.
it, right? I can't explain it to you why, but I just need that walk in the woods. Or, in the old days, sitting on that board. Again, surfing, the most therapeutic thing about surfing for me, maybe not you, wasn't catching the wave. It was sitting out there in the sun, waiting for the set to come in. If that set didn't come in for another 10 minutes, Jack, it was really nice just to sit there in the ocean. It was just, that's okay by me, right? I never got anxious about that, right?
Absolutely. What I love about surfing too is it's a peaceful and terrifying moment all wrapped into one. It's a really strange but beautiful thing. I love it.
And great exercise too. That's right.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, congrats on that. That's very exciting. We'll keep an eye out for the next project, and good luck on going back to school. A couple more listener questions. One is, have you guys kept track of how many national parks at this point that you've been to?
Oh yeah, we have. I want to say we're definitely, I don't have the exact number. We're definitely in the 70s as far as the all 400 some are concerned.
Yeah.
But as far as the big, what is it, 62 we're at now?
I think, is that it, Danielle? She's nodding. I think it's 50, 60 or 61.
62.
Yeah, something like
62.
that.
We're at 62.
62. Of the 62, I think we're at 58 or something.
Oh,
we're
you're
so
close.
Yeah, we're real close.
Who are you missing?
Lake Clark, Kobuk Valley.
Yeah.
I've never done Cuyahoga Valley in Ohio.
Come ride with us. We're doing it this summer. COVID,
nice.
COVID lets us, but we're going to go check that out. Cleveland.
Right on.
Yeah, so we're going to go check it out. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, American Samoa. And then, what's really sad? I've been to Moab multiple times. I have not set foot in Arches.
That's a blind spot for us, nor have we. And we've been to Utah, family trips and high school buddy trips, but we've not made it out to Arches. So shame on both of us. We'll have to get out there. At some
seriously.
Point. Yeah. Not Danielle's fault. I'll take the hit there, but yeah, Arches. We should get out to Arches. My next listener question is, and this is, look, it's from a 7-year-old, and this may be the toughest question you'll get in this entire podcast, but it's a tough crowd here. Jack, why haven't you come to Whiskeytown National Recreation Area in California yet?
You know why?
Tough crowd.
I have never heard of it. I would love to know where that is, and I'm going to check it out because, hey, it's California. It's somewhere in my backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
So that would be my answer there. I haven't heard of it, but it sounds incredible to me. And so I'm going to look that up, and I think I might be coming very soon once this pandemic, settles down a little bit. Sounds great. Great
customer service there from your 7-year-old big fan.
Love it. I love that.
The one last listener question we had, and this is maybe a little bit more of a personal one, but this listener, I'll give you the background. The question was long, but the listener basically, in trying to manage friends and visiting the parks, there's always a particular dynamic. So she sensed that maybe there was a dynamic between you and Colton in terms of who gets to choose where to go and what to do. You mentioned this a little bit before, but so maybe, Jack, would you mind taking the angle of dynamics when you're traveling off camera with friends? You know, what kind of personnel are you? The leader, or you just kind of go along, get
Yeah.
along? Or, and then how does that work with I think you mentioned the team, but how does this work when you have a full production and cameraman and producers and you and Colton are shooting a show? How does that dynamic come across? And what advice could you give to that listener who's, I think, trying to navigate how she pulls together her group to go on a trip?
Yeah, I think we all have different strengths, and so I know when it comes to Colton and myself, we can share all of these strengths, but more often than not, um, I tend to be a very like organized guy. I tend to take on a leadership role just naturally, and so back in the day and even today, when we're out filming, I tend to take on that leadership role when it comes to like, yeah, like keeping track of how many miles we have to go or which
Yeah.
direction we're going to go and what are the supplies we're going to need. But with that also being said, we've done this so much where like Colton's pretty self-sufficient on his own as well too. So we do share those. Colton is very much he's kind of the guy that likes to just, we always say he's flying by the seat of his pants. Like he just kind of like gets out there and like experiences it. And so what makes us so great as a duo is I tend to be much more calculated and he tends to just kind of go out and get into the thick of it. And so it's a great balance. But also over the years, we've really kind of, gone all different ways with that. Now I think I tend to be a little bit more just like, let's get out there and see what happens. So it all changes. But I guess my answer would be, just see what comes natural to you. If you like to plan trips, like do it. And your friends will definitely thank you for that, because someone needs to be on top of things. But also if you're not that person, if you're the person that, needs someone else to take you out, that's okay as well.
Yeah.
That's what a team and a friendship is all about.
Well, I think I think also what you intimated is as you keep going out with the same groups, those roles will settle a bit and morph somewhat. So there's not just the leader and just the person who
Totally.
carry it. All kind of morphs together, which I guess is just kind of a fundamental tenet of friendship, right? I mean, that's kind of what it's all about.
Absolutely.
So again, we really appreciate, Jack, your time. This has been really exciting. You know, we just have one more question for you that we ask all of our guests, but I'm particularly interested in asking you this because you've been to so many of these parks. And usually the question we ask is, if it's just focused on a particular park, is, was there a moment that you've had in a particular park? And for you, it's wherever you and Colton have been. Is there a moment you've had, one of those transcendent moments where unexpectedly you're going about your day, the hike, the rock climb, the bike ride, whatever it may be, and suddenly it just hit you, one of those moments where it just hit you of where you are, how special the place was, just one of those overwhelming feelings. Can you think of one where you've had that, and where was that?
Yeah, man, there've been so many. I'm thinking of one for me that was huge, and it was in Death Valley, but since I already mentioned that, y- you know I think for us nowadays, anytime we get to camp out as a crew, it's really special. We always wake up the next morning or sit around the campfire and we talk about how blessed we are to be able to do what we're doing. And so one that I remember that was recent is we were in Gold Butte National Monument, which is just outside of Vegas, maybe like 60 miles or something. And our whole crew was huddled around this tiny little campfire, and we were cooking food. And it was just an amazing moment of being able to just like sit back and all of us and just think about like how much we enjoy each other's company and how we're able to really have a job that we love and be able to also work with good people, work with people that we really do care about, and be able to put out a positive message and just a positive program. And then also at the same time, just goof off and have fun. So that's the most recent one I can think of, is we were all sitting around a campfire. And yeah, it was just, we were in awe of where we were and how far we'd come over 6 years. And that was a special one. But man, yeah, like you said, there are just so many of those moments. I think that also speaks to the character of our parks.
And it just hit me. I think and it just hit me right now with your saying that. When I'm thinking about Rock the Park, when I'm thinking about your show, obviously the stars of the show, no disrespect to you and Colton, are the parks themselves.
Yeah.
But if I had to hand out an award for best supporting actor, the best supporting actor are the relationships and the friendships, because as much as you and I and Danielle and Colton love those parks, if you film that scene in our backyard, your backyard, it's the same type of scene. If there's a sky and a campfire and some tents and some people who love each other sitting around in the outdoors, that's also what it's all about. So that is also, now it just occurred to me, that's another through line from your show,
Yeah.
are those friendships and those relationships, which is really special.
It's actually my favorite thing about the parks. It's funny because it has nothing to do with the parks, but it's the memories that you make with your people there, whether they're your family, your best friends, your friends, whoever, or the strangers you meet along the way. That is really, to me, what's special about these places, is they just breed these beautiful moments and friendships.
Right. I guess that is such a great note to end on. Again, Jack Steward, the co-creator and host of the Emmy Award-winning and Emmy-nominated Rock the Park. We so much appreciate your time. Danielle, myself, and the girls, we look forward to seeing you and Colton out there. And if I do come out of retirement, I'm on a board, I'll try not to steal your break if I'm out on the West Coast. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Hey, you can join. We can do a party wave.
We can do a party wave. That's right. That would be a lot of fun.
That'd be great.
Again, man, stay safe, stay healthy, and all the best to you, Colton, and the rest of the crew for your next season.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. It means a lot.